Research associate, lecturer, research assistant in law. Those were the titles American universities printed on the appointment papers of women who were already doing the work of professors. She taught the courses. She ran the laboratory. She published the findings, and the rank went to someone else, or it simply never came at all. The universities called this a question of standards. What it actually was a career taken in small documented pieces by institutions that kept the labor and withheld the job. It gets worse as the numbers get smaller. Before that, at number 2, there is the door she was not allowed to walk through. And by the time we reach number 1, you will see the mountain where a woman was not permitted to apply for the telescope she then operated all night. Hit the subscribe button. This is a documented record. Number 20, the census. In the academic year 1959 to 1960, a committee later commissioned by the American Historical Association counted the full professors in the 10 leading university history departments in the country. There were 160 of them. Not one was a woman. These were not departments that refused to educate women. They had been awarding doctorates to women since the beginning of the century, supervising their dissertations, approving their examinations, and signing their degrees. What they would not do was appoint one of those women to their own senior ranks. A decade later, those same departments had grown to 272 full professors, and 2 of them were women. The top of the profession in the departments that set the standard for the field stayed closed for an entire generation. No chairman was ever asked to explain the number. The number was what a history department looked like. Number 19, the pipeline. Through the 1950s, women were about a third of American undergraduates, and they took just over 10% of the doctorates awarded in the country. Before the war, that figure had been close to 20%. So the number went down, and it went down at the exact moment American higher education began the largest expansion in its history. The research universities were not short of qualified women. They had trained them personally. A woman could spend 6 years inside a department, pass its examinations, write a dissertation its own faculty approved, and shake the hand of the man who directed it, and the credential she earned would open nothing at the institution that issued it. The degree was the part they were willing to give her. The department granted the degree. The department wrote the recommendation. The department hired a man. Number 18, the 47 years. The psychology department at the University of California, Berkeley grew to 42 faculty members by the middle of the 1960s. The last woman it had hired onto that faculty was Jean McFarlane, and it hired her in 1923. That is 47 years. The department had no rule against women. It had a practice, which is harder to point at and much easier to keep. Through the whole of the 1950s, the women already inside it aged out one at a time, and no appointment was made to replace them. Olga Bridgman retired in 1956. McFarlane herself left in 1961. Catherine Landreth followed in 1964, and after that, the faculty ranks of one of the strongest psychology departments in the country contained no women at all. Nobody was dismissed. The department waited, and the women ran out. Number 17, the replacement rule. The late 1950s brought unprecedented numbers of new faculty into American colleges and universities. Enrollments were climbing, buildings were going up, and departments were hiring at a rate they had never seen before. Nearly every person they hired was a man. The expansion created new faculty positions in numbers the country had never seen, and it created them for men. At the same time, the women appointed back in the 1920s and the 1930s were reaching retirement, and the juniors brought in to replace them were men as well. At 10 leading coeducational colleges, women held 16% of the full professorships in history in 1960. By 1970, they held none of them. The largest opening of academic positions in the country's history reached almost none of the women already qualified to fill them. The share of women did not stall during the boom. It fell during it. Number 16, the opposition. In 1958, the history department at Berkeley appointed Adrienne Koch. She was a serious scholar of American political thought with the publications to prove it, and she was the first woman the department had ever hired. One of the men who supported her appointment wrote afterward that there had been, in his words, much opposition. He did not mean opposition to her scholarship. Nobody had produced an argument against the work, because there was not one to produce. In the 1950s, a leading history department could decline to hire women however good they were, and nothing in that decision ever had to be written down as a decision. There was no rule to appeal and no reason on file to answer. It was a preference. It was expressed in a vote and recorded as a result. Notice what has not appeared yet. No rule, no clause, no signed policy stating that a woman may not hold a chair in this department. What the record shows instead is a long series of ordinary professional judgments made by reasonable men in meetings that kept minutes, arriving at the same result every time for an entire decade. This exclusion never needed a document. It needed a vote. What follows is what happened to the women who got through anyway. Number 15, the seriousness rule. Women's colleges were the one part of American higher education that had reliably hired women, promoted them, and made them full professors. In the 1950s, those colleges started hiring men instead, and it was deliberate. A male faculty was read as a sign that an institution was progressive and academically serious. So the schools founded to educate women began staffing themselves with men in order to be taken seriously by everyone else. The one employer that had treated a woman's career as a career began treating her presence as a liability. The effect outlasted the decade by a generation. When those same colleges went looking for women faculty in the 1970s, they found their senior positions already occupied by the men hired in the 1950s, who were by then in their 40s and 50s and going nowhere. The colleges founded for women filled their senior chairs with men. 20 years later, those chairs were still occupied. Number 14, the only college she could lead. Home economics was the exception. It was the one field in which a woman could chair a department, hold a deanship, direct funded research, and supervise doctoral students without anyone objecting. And thousands of capable women scientists built real careers inside it because it was the only building on campus with the lights on for them. Then, in the 1950s, the field went looking for prestige. Federal support was tightening, the schools wanted status, and home economics administrators began preferentially hiring men, particularly in child development, on the theory that a man on the roster would attract more funding. Women deans made those decisions themselves. The last department in the university that a woman could run began recruiting men to run it. The reason entered in the record was prestige. Number 13, the program. Every year, the American Historical Association publishes the program for its annual meeting, listing every scholar who will present a paper, comment on a panel, or chair a session. In 1939, women were 6% of that program. In 1949, they were 7%. In 1959, they were 1.7%. And the annual meeting was not a formality. It was where reputations were made, where jobs were arranged in hotel rooms, and where an unknown scholar became a known quantity to the people who did the hiring. Appearing on the program was how a historian became visible to her own profession. Inside a single decade, the public face of that profession was wiped very nearly clean. She could pay the registration fee and sit in the audience. Her name was not on the program. Number 12, the dean who stopped reporting. There was one senior administrative post that women reliably held, and that was the dean of women. It was a real job. She built curricula, ran student affairs, developed whole programs in psychology and vocational education, and spoke for every woman on the campus. In 1940, 86% of those deans reported directly to the president of the institution. That meant a seat at the table and a woman in the room when decisions were made about women. Then the line was cut. By 1962, only 30% of deans of women still reported to the president. The rest had been moved down the chart, folded underneath a vice president, or handed a new title with fewer meetings attached to it. The one office that carried a woman's voice into the room where policy was set was moved out of that room. The title stayed. The line to the president was cut, and nobody had to account for cutting it. Number 11, the assurance. In 1957, the mathematics department at the California Institute of Technology wanted to hire Olga Taussky-Todd. The mathematicians were enthusiastic about her. The trustees wanted something first, and what they wanted was assurance that she was, in the phrase the record preserves, considered the leading living woman mathematician in the world. Not a leading mathematician, not excellent, not qualified, not the strongest candidate available. The leading living woman mathematician in the world. And in 1963, when her advancement came up again, the same assurance had to be produced a second time. What she was asked to clear was not a higher version of the bar the men cleared. It was a different bar, and she cleared it twice. The men in that department were hired for being good at mathematics. She was hired on written assurance that no woman alive was better. The historian Margaret Rossiter gave this system its two names, and once you have them, you cannot stop seeing them. Territorial segregation put women in the places considered women's places: the women's college, the home economics building, the field nobody else wanted. Hierarchical segregation took the ones who made it into the main building and kept them in the assistant's chair, doing the work at the lower title. What comes next is what hierarchical segregation looks like when you read it straight off an appointment record. Number 10, the research associate. Caltech did hire Taussky-Todd in 1957 with the title of research associate. She stayed for decades. She taught. She published. She supervised students, and she built the reputation of the number theory group at that institute. In 1963, Caltech granted her tenure, and it granted that tenure to her as a research associate, not as a professor. She was made permanent inside a job title designed for temporary staff. In the same year, the trustees had to be reassured about her a second time. She did not become a professor at Caltech until 1971. What moved it was press coverage describing a young assistant professor of English as the first woman on the Caltech faculty. Taussky-Todd had been working there for 14 years, and by the Institute's own account, she was not on it. She learned her own standing from a newspaper. She went to the administration and asked for the correction herself. Number 9, the 16 years. Harvard Law School hired Elisabeth Owens in 1956. Her title was Research Assistant in Law. In 1961, she became a research associate in law, an editor of publications for the school's international taxation program. In 1964, she was made a lecturer on law while remaining a research associate. In 1967, the title changed again to senior research associate. In 1972, 16 years after she first walked in, Harvard Law School made her a professor of law, and she became the first woman it had ever granted tenure. 4 years after that, she held a named chair. She stayed at that school until 1998, more than 40 years in one institution. She had been writing on international taxation the entire time, and the school had been publishing it under its own name the entire time. The titles kept changing. The work did not. Number 8, the 31 years. Cecilia Payne-Gaposchkin came to Harvard in 1923 and wrote a doctoral thesis that other astronomers would later call the most brilliant ever written in the field. She had worked out what the stars are made of. Harvard kept her. Harvard did not promote her. For years, the courses she taught did not appear in the university's course catalog at all, an arrangement that nobody corrected until 1945. She was teaching Harvard students in a Harvard building, and on paper, the courses were not there. In 1938, she was given the title of Phillips Astronomer, which was a title rather than a professorship. In 1956, 31 years after that thesis, Harvard finally made her a professor of astronomy, the first woman to reach a full professorship there through ordinary faculty promotion, and the first woman to chair a department at that university. She was 9 years from retirement age. The discovery was finished in 1925. The title arrived in 1956. Number 7. The number nobody collected. Here is a fact about faculty pay in the 1950s that is easy to miss because it is an absence rather than an event. Nobody was counting. The American Association of University Professors ran an annual survey of faculty compensation across the country, and that survey did not break salaries out by sex until 1975. For the whole of the 1950s, a woman who suspected she was being paid less than the man in the next office had no way at all to establish it because the profession's own statistics did not record the difference. She could not raise a case she could not document. When the association finally did ask, about 90% of institutions handed the data over without an argument. And what it showed, once anybody looked, was that women were underpaid at every rank and bunched at the bottom ranks, which had been hiding the size of the gap. The numbers had been sitting in payroll offices for decades. Nobody had asked for the total. Number 6, the salary a man had to notice. Chien-Shiung Wu arrived at Columbia in 1944 and stayed for the rest of her working life. She was the finest experimental physicist in her field, and everyone in that field knew it. In 1956, 2 theorists asked her to test whether one of the fundamental symmetries of physics actually held. She designed the experiment, ran it, and proved that it did not. They took the Nobel Prize the following year. Columbia made her an associate professor in 1952 and a full professor in 1958. Then, in 1975, the chairman of the physics department happened to examine the payroll and discovered that her salary was significantly lower than her male colleagues, and he raised it. She had been at Columbia for 31 years. 3 years before that correction, she had led a committee demanding the university pay its women and minority faculty the same as its men, at a time when Columbia had 11 women on its entire full-time faculty. Her pay was not corrected when she earned it. It was corrected when a man looked. Everything so far can be argued about in an office. Rank, salary, promotion, all of it lives on paper, and paper can always be defended by somebody. What is left is simpler and much harder to explain away. What is left are the rooms. A door, a dining room, a dormitory on a mountain, not what the university believed she was worth, but where it would physically permit her to stand. Number 5, the ceiling at the medical school. In 1944, the faculty of Harvard Medical School voted 56-3 to admit women as students. Women entered in 1945, and the first of them graduated in 1949. So all through the 1950s, that school was training women to practice medicine, while keeping the top of its own faculty closed to them. Marion Ropes became the first woman appointed assistant professor in a clinical department in 1947. Harriet Hardy became the first woman appointed associate clinical professor in 1958. The first woman appointed to a full professorship at Harvard Medical School was Greta Bibring, and that did not happen until 1961. Bibring had been the head of a clinical department since 1946. She ran that department for 15 years without the rank that goes with running one. The work was hers in 1946. The title was granted in 1961. Number 4, the graduate faculty. Barnard College sits directly across the street from Columbia University, and its faculty taught Columbia's affiliated women. Men appointed at Barnard had a route out and upward. They moved over to Columbia, or they held an appointment at Barnard and a seat in one of the university's graduate faculties at the same time, which meant teaching graduate students, directing dissertations, and taking part in the enterprise where academic reputations are actually built. Those arrangements were not extended to the women on the Barnard faculty. Same street, same students, same disciplines, same qualifications, and no route into the institution that granted the degrees. The university on the other side of that street did not hire a woman as an assistant professor of history until 1967, or give one tenure in that department until 1969. The men had a door into the university. The women had a job across the road from one. Number 3, the club she had to build. At the University of California, Berkeley, the establishment that called itself the Faculty Club would not admit women as members. A woman on the faculty might occasionally be brought to a function as somebody's guest. She could not join. These were women who sat as voting members of their own departments and of the Academic Senate, the body that governed appointments and promotions, and they could not take lunch in the building where their colleagues took theirs, so they built their own. In 1919, the Dean of Women sent out an invitation. A first meeting was held in the apartment of the first woman ever made a full professor at Berkeley, and 76 women were invited to the organizing dinner. They raised the money, hired the campus architect, and put up a building, and that building is still standing today. The women of that faculty financed and constructed a second clubhouse. The first one would not seat them. Number 2, the side entrance. The Harvard Faculty Club is where the faculty of Harvard University ate lunch, met colleagues, and conducted the informal business that faculties conduct. A woman entitled to be in that building did not come through the front door. She used the side entrance. She waited in a room the club called the ladies' waiting room. She ate in a room the club called the ladies' dining room. Those are the club's own words for its own rooms, and they were the arrangement for decades. She could hold the appointment and still not hold a place at the table. In 1966, the Harvard Corporation approved an expansion of the building, and the new wing was going to encroach on the ladies' waiting room. So it was deemed necessary to admit women to the club's main lounge for the first time. Women were permitted through the front door 2 years after that, in 1968. The rule did not end on principle. It ended because the room was in the way of a wall. Number 1, the mountain. The largest telescopes on Earth stood on Mount Wilson and Mount Palomar in Southern California, run jointly by the California Institute of Technology and the Carnegie Institution from 1948. Margaret Burbidge was among the finest observational astronomers alive. She could not apply. Women were not eligible for the fellowship that carried observing time, and the reason the institution gave was housing. There was one dormitory up there, and the men who ran the place called it the monastery. So in 1955, the Burbidges swapped their applications. Her husband, a theorist, took the post at Mount Wilson. She took a lesser position at Caltech and went up the mountain as his assistant. He sat in the dark room. She ran the telescope all night, gathering the observations behind one of the landmark papers of 20th century astrophysics. When the observatory's management worked out what was happening, they let her stay. On one condition: she and her husband had to live in a separate cottage on the grounds and cook for themselves. The telescope was never the question. The sleeping arrangements were, and they kept her off the mountain for a decade. In June 1956, a short item ran in the New York Times. Harvard announced the appointment of Dr. Cecilia Payne-Gaposchkin as professor of astronomy, the first woman to reach a full professorship there through regular faculty promotion. She was 56, and she had been at Harvard since 1923. The thesis that told the world what the stars are made of was 31 years behind her, and for much of that time, her courses were not printed in the catalog. Harvard was not run by villains. Neither was Caltech, Columbia, Berkeley, or the observatory on the mountain. They were run by men applying appointment standards nobody had ever been asked to justify, and that is almost always how it works. All of it is on paper. Department histories, university archives, faculty club records, salary surveys, the cottage instead of the dormitory, 16 years of fresh titles for the same job, 160 full professors, and not one woman among them. They called it standards. Ask yourself whose career those standards were built to protect. Did someone in your family do the work under a title that never matched it? Tell me what she was never allowed to be called.